Tamela. Let's laugh and spread love. Tea with Tamela. You're more than enough. Tea with Tamela. Don't ever give up. Tea with Tamela. Come and fill your cup. Tea with Tamela.
Hi, guys. Welcome back to Tea with Tamela. We are so thrilled to be going into season 3. Season
Wow.
3. Can you believe it's season 3?
I cannot. This is unreal.
Well, this season we have new stories, new conversations, new guests as we really dig into all things faith, family, food, football, and everything in between. If you're new here, I am your host, Tamela, and I pray that each episode leaves you encouraged, motivated, inspired, but I always want to challenge you to grow. Today, we're going to talk about something that may be slightly challenging with how people really think about ministry, missionaries, what that process looks like. I am joined here today by my partner, Demario Davis.
Hello, great people. How y'all doing?
Thanks
Good to be
for
here.
sitting here and chatting with me. It's always fun to have you on because we get to put on display some of the conversations we either have individually between the two of us or with different family and friend groups, but sometimes different questions that we get asked about how we just go about navigating day-to-day life or different exposures and experiences that we have access to.
Yeah.
And so I'm excited to dig into this topic. How are you feeling about it?
I am. I'm intrigued about where the conversation is going to go. I love all things ministry related. That's a very natural lane for me to discuss. But just being able to help other people navigate those different dynamics as is very nuanced. And so I am looking forward to this conversation.
Do you think a lot of people really have a conflict with how they think about ministry or missionary work? Do people struggle with being able to see that God can use you in any environment, any walk of life, wherever He's placing you, the marketplace ministry, and all of those things?
I think I tend to see a gap just in the anything post-baptism with Christians in general.
Anything post-baptism?
Anything post-baptism.
Okay.
So anything post-salvation.
Mm-hmm.
And Christianity at most could be going to church every Sunday, living in a small group, and walking in a community and living upright before the Lord.
Mm-hmm.
And relationally, fellowship-wise, that's great. And then it becomes at minimum, going to church periodically and having, reading your word, praying. And so it's like it stops post-salvation, but it misses the mark of I have reconciled you to myself and given you the message of reconciliation.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that's where a lot of it gets misplaced, where you miss out on evangelism, you miss out on discipleship, you miss out on missional living, which is where ministry and missionary work lives. And so as churches will often have a moment where they talk about the missionaries that they support, or the campus missionaries that they have, people who are going out and sharing the gospel. And so it literally becomes reduced in the Christian community, at least from what I see on a mass level, that it's the pastor's role to preach the message, and the people who do the missionary work to be the ones that are actually going and sharing the gospel. I might tithe, I might give donations, I might support, or I might go to a charitable event, but it's not my role or job to share the gospel or teach the gospel. And I think that lends itself to the question of why. Why is this a pandemic or epidemic amongst the Christian community?
It's hard to be able to really pinpoint the why. I think it's based on the individual and their own faith walk and different things that they've been exposed to. For myself, I can recall when this is when I was in a more of a religious phase versus a relationship phase. When I thought about ministry or missionaries, it was often times people who were going to other countries that were being developed or going to different mission projects, or it was people who specifically worked in the local church. When I thought about missionaries and how I was gonna, if somebody was like, "Oh, you want to go on a mission trip?" I thought it had to look a certain way. Like a mission trip meant this, or if I'm gonna do ministry, it meant something completely different. And I don't think it was until I was at Arkansas State where I actually saw campus ministry take place, where I'm like, oh, wait, you can be a missionary on campus? Like, what does that look like? Because it was something that was extremely foreign to me.
Mhm.
But as the growth and development began to happen, I gained awareness that God doesn't have limitations on how he places people in very unique situations, in unique atmospheres for them to be able to utilize those platforms for his glory.
Yeah. And I think that was a unique thing that we had afforded to us, is that we got trained.
Yeah.
And so when I look at it and I ask the question, is for those communities where people aren't being trained.
Mm-hmm.
So we were very fortunate to participate in the organization Campus Outreach, which we've mentioned often. Shout out to Campus Outreach, because not only were we brought to salvation, not only were we entered into Bible studies and discipleship groups, there was also evangelism training. And so that was
Yes.
intentional about teaching you how to share your testimony, teaching you how to share the gospel, teaching you how to lead a Bible study, and teaching a lot of things that help you take those first steps. And as you got more comfortable and got more reps, by the time we left college, we were very comfortable doing it in our communities and the pros. And so for me, the first time that it shifted about missional living is when I went and did an 8-week summer camp for evangelism training.
Yes. And not every individual get the opportunity to be able to gain that experience. And I think that changes.
It changes everything, because my perspective was shifted in the summer of 2010, where I was presented with the opportunity to go in and do evangelism training while I'm a football athlete, and you never leave campus during the summer. You stay and you train with your team.
Mm-hmm.
So it was very daunting for me to go and ask my coaches, can I go participate in this camp for the summer? And I felt like I needed to sacrifice this summer. And I'm so glad I did, though it was costly. And I went and asked my coach. He said, well, I recommend that you only at least do a half, don't do the full summer.
That's not a good idea.
And so he was essentially saying it's not a good idea, but I was being, what I feel like, led in the spirit to go and do it. So I surrendered it. I surrendered football to go and take this. And over those 8 weeks, we did intense training on what it meant to live missionally. And so you understand what it means to be a disciple of Jesus Christ, that you are not just here to follow him, but you are to go and invite other people to follow him, to say, hey, follow me as I follow Christ. That is why you're still here, because other than that, why are you still here on earth after you have already been saved in the kingdom? And so it's to go and make disciples. And so that became very real for me over a summer. And when I got back to...
So are you saying you were really introduced to, once I accept salvation, my primary purpose is to know God. And now that I know him and I've accepted him, my mission now is to make him known to other people that I get to encounter.
Absolutely. That's the whole purpose of living, knowing God and making God known. But I did not understand that even as a Christian until I got specific training. And once I got trained, so I come back to my locker room, I knew I wanted to grow as a leader. I knew I wanted to grow as a person, but I didn't know what I was growing in until I came back. And when I came back, it was almost as if as I stepped foot on that campus, I looked at my locker room and said, you don't have to go to China to go to a mission field. You don't have to go to another country to go to a mission field. Your mission is whatever field that you're stepping into. And so my locker room was my mission field. So when people go, like, I don't know what people visualize when you see like missionaries go to other places. Like a lot of times they're just going over there doing the stuff that they do here. Like if they're nurses, they go help people. If they're electricians, they go, help with electrical. And
they're taking their gifts and their talents and putting them on display, and they're going to other countries to serve individuals. Is that
correct?
Okay.
So that shifted for me. And literally, ever since then, I've always looked at locker room as a mission field. And it wasn't, I don't use the locker room as just a place for bonding with teammates or playing football as just a place for my glory. I'm intentionally trying to figure out how can I help these guys in the locker room be better men, better husbands, better fathers, better leaders in their community.
So thinking back, I want to go back just a little bit to those college experiences that we had with being exposed to all the different pathways to do ministry. I think they were really intentional about putting on display wherever you go. You're a living vessel. You're a walking testimony. So going into classrooms, like I remember us recruiting people from class to bring them to Bible study. And sometimes that could be challenging or not because you're in a melting pot of people. Going to the workplace. For me, I remember students calling me the Bible lady because I went to work every day with my Bible, and, you know, they would see me in between classes or things of that nature, which sparked conversation and questions. So there was an intentional way that we were going about living out the different things that we were trained to do. But at some point, I think there was a moment that happened where we maybe considered doing missionary work differently than, you know, going overseas and things of that nature, but maybe campus ministry. And we were planning out what that could potentially look like before there was the whole launching pad of the NFL.
Oh, absolutely.
And so with the NFL, a lot of times people look at it as this huge platform for self-glory. It's like you're building up all of these accolades for you, and it's hard to be able to identify how it becomes like mission focused.
Yeah.
What was the defining moment for you? Did it happen in college, or was it like a redefining moment once the NFL was at the forefront of, wait, this isn't just a platform, this is a responsibility. I'm being launched to do missions work on a different level, on a different environment of people, but I get to take some of those same tools and resources along the way.
Yeah. I think we were on a track to be ready and prepared to, if we went into missionary work full time, it would have been on a campus. It wouldn't have been leaving the country. It would have been right where we were, where we were planning, where we already had relationships, and we were looking to go deep there, whether it was full time, part time, and so we were making plans around that. So our heart had already shifted that we had a responsibility in general to share the gospel and to help people find Christ and interact with Christ and encounter Christ in the same way that we had. And that shift happened specifically around football for me in college, where I just saw it as a locker room. And so every locker room since has just been a locker room as a mission field. It didn't matter if it was Arkansas State all the way to New York, Cleveland, New Orleans. It was just locker rooms. And I think there was an additional shift that happened in terms of this platform is unique and a major responsibility. But that happened later. And you maybe can discuss what you felt like when and if that shift happened. Did you see college and the league as the same, or you saw them different?
I honestly, in the beginning, saw them different. And because I'm so analytical and I was taking the information and absorbing it and figuring out tangible ways to be able to implement it into that cohort of things that was going on currently. And so once the NFL became this new launching pad, I didn't know what that looked like because campus ministry is a little radical,
Oh, yeah,
you know.
absolutely.
And so I'm like, I don't know if this is gonna get me the same ROI. So I struggle with what did ministry look like inside of that space because it wasn't something that I was extremely familiar with. I can recall being in a place where I'm like, okay, I know there's a reason why things are unfolding the way they are in our lives. And I know that God is strategic in what he's doing, but I think I had to catch up to what he was doing.
Oh, what way? What do you mean catching up?
I had to catch up because, one, I wasn't really comfortable taking everything that I learned and doing it outside of like that safe place. There's a lot of people that seem a little bit more approachable when you're on campus trying to share. There's opportunities to meet people that don't make you seem weird because there's verbiage that's taking place. I can recall we would go to these meetings. It's like, what is the Lord doing in your life? And it's very it's one of those things where, it's almost like practice language, but everybody is speaking the same language once you're kind of around everybody. And so being launched from college, campus, that locker room, that group of people to like the NFL, you go and you're like, what is the Lord doing in your life? And they're like, what? You can't leave with that.
Yeah.
So there was new trainings that needed to take place where I needed to shift my mind. I needed to come up with new approaches, new conversation starters. What did discipleship look like in this area? So I'm like, maybe we're not supposed to be doing that here. Maybe that's for somebody to do for us. It was just this tug of war taking place in my mind. And the defining moment for me was actually much later, but it was at the end of year 4. Because although I was help leading teen Bible studies, although I was very vocal about where I stood and how I was executing and living my faith out loud, there were still some parts of me that was extremely reserved. And I remember we had somebody on our team when we were leaving, just on our individual team, like working alongside us with serving the family and things of that nature. And they were, heavy believers, and we had gotten to do life with them and have a lot of conversations around different faith elements. And we were getting ready it was free agency. We were unexpectedly going to Cleveland. And I remember her coming to me and was like, I'm so mad. I'm so mad at God. Like, why would he take you guys from here to send you there? And she was having this conversation with me. And I think, in hindsight, she was able to identify ways that we were intentionally yet not intentionally, living out loud with our faith, because I think she could see things and people who were being impacted that we weren't yet able to really fully grasp or gauge because we were still trying to figure out so many things. And so you're your own hardest critic, right? And I remember her saying all of that. And then I think we were in Hawaii or something, and she went to bed that night and she prayed, and she came back to me that morning and she was like, I had a conversation with God and he wanted me to tell you guys that he has placed you in this space as missionaries. Missionaries to be able to take the gospel forward in a place that doesn't look familiar with how people usually identify people who are doing ministry type work. And so she talked about how a lot of times when you're in this space, people have so many worldly accolades. And so they have all the things of the world, all the success, the fame, the financial pieces. They have just thing after thing that they're able to collect to build up their own glory. But she also said they have nothing because they don't have him. And so he has been intentional with placing you inside of this environment because he knows where you stand with him, and he wants you to live out your faith and disciple people in a way that it looks different. And so he's like, it's not just the people who are in these foreign countries or in these unfortunate situations that you see on TV or you hear people get up and talk about at church that needs to be exposed to missional work, but it's people in high places as well. And that's what he's doing. And so it was then where I was like, oh, like I'm doing some of the same things that God kind of placed on my heart, or I felt like had given me clarity of this is the assignment and the calling on your life. But because it looked different, I didn't know how to transition smoothly and learn the new way to be able to navigate that.
Right.
And so it took that moment of having that deep, detailed conversation with her where I felt like it was coming directly from the Lord to me to say, hey, I need you to strap up your boots and get on mission.
Yeah.
Like you've been doing it in a way that has been good, but I've called you to do it in a way that is way, way more advanced in how you're doing it. And so I need you to equip yourself. I need you to find the new conversation starters, the new verbiage. I need you to be intentional about the strategy that you're putting in it, because you can't use that here.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that you're not using what's at the root of all of it.
Yeah. And I think it's always interesting as we play it back to see how we were on our own journeys, on the same journey during it all. And because for me, as you saw them different, I saw them the same. And I just kind of came in head first. When you're a campus minister, everything is just direct. You busting in on Greek house, you busting in on classrooms, you busting in on the football field. Like, hey, here's Jesus.
You're at the Starbucks. Hey, anybody want to?
You want Jesus?
It's like you have a pamphlet and you have a pitch and you have,
You got to, but because when you're on the ground with people, they're getting so much noise that you have to have something that cuts through.
Mm-hmm.
And so I remember first training camp, I'm like, who on the team leading Bible study? Where's Bible study? We having Bible study? And I was there with my Bible, and it was 3 guys. I still remember to this day. It was 3 guys, a little small Bible study, but it was happening. And I remember just being there like, oh yeah, we definitely gonna have to grow this. And, just thinking through like all the things that I would do what would I do on a college campus? And I'm approaching it the same way. And I think while on one side, I kind of kept that approach all the way through, and it really was just, here's a family that are unashamed about their relationship with Jesus. So when we first came in, being an athlete and being Christian wasn't the popular, trendy thing to do.
It was not as popular as it is now, for sure.
It wasn't a popular and trendy thing. Actually, Tim Tebow had made headlines just because he put John 3:16 on his eyes. And it was like, here's somebody who's unashamed in his faith. And he was on our team, a great teammate our first year. And I remember going up right up to him, just like, tell me about that experience. Tell me about your walk with Christ. And we would listen to worship music in the locker room. And it just wasn't a norm. It wasn't a social norm. But there were deep pockets of people who were walking out their faith. That's how we got connected with the PAO community and things like that. But anyways, it was just being up front. I think it got a respect from, here are people who are unashamed about their faith. But to your point, we did need to learn that it was different. When you're dealing with people of a certain status or a certain influence, they just move different. They have to move quieter. They have to move more protected. And so you walk in just, hey, what you up to? You rocking with Jesus? You buzz people out. You put them in an uncomfortable situation. And it was like,
I guess, yeah.
Well, if you have that conversation with them behind a closed door, or you model it, because in certain circles, you have people who coming up on you with all different type approaches and pitches.
Right.
Where you have to have a lot more time in a relational standpoint to be able to model it. And then when they see how you handle adversity or handle pressure or respond in certain situations, or how you handle your marriage or how you raise your kids, and they're watching, they start to lean in with different questions. So it's much more of an intimate, slow approach.
It's a slower approach than just being direct and coming in and like your, Bible on your head and ding in a pan, like come here. Everybody listen, preaching in the locker room, standing up on the lockers is not that type, because what you essentially would do is scare people away, I'm sure. So it's that living with such intentionality where I think there's a saying where like your life may be the only Bible someone is reading. And so instead of always trying to take them directly to the Word of God, you have to understand where their spiritual maturity is. And so for some people, they're in a very infancy stage, or they're trying to even figure out if they believe, if they've ever heard of it, all of that. So it's almost like spoon feeding them milk. And then they can graduate to a bottle. And then from the bottle, the mush. So it's all these different levels that you have to go about when you're trying to live in a way that, I guess, your life is on display, but you also want to be able to connect. You don't want to be like the oddball, because then you're also, stirring people away from the gospel versus pulling them close. And so that requires, I think, humility, strategy, being willing to retrain your muscle memory.
Yes, you have to go back to not every style and form that you learn in which to share the gospel and have these approaches with people are the way to go. You have to become all things to all people, and sharing the gospel with college students or sharing the gospel in another country in the slums is very different than sharing the gospel in with CEOs, sharing the gospel with high influence athletes and families. It's the same gospel. The message don't change, but the way in which it's integrated and the way that it needs to be presented and to be digested is different. And as people we always say, from the streets to the suites, that's how we even got to that place, is because we had to deal relationally with people in the streets and relationally with people in suites.
Right.
But we were on the same mission the whole time.
Same mission the whole time. And it's challenging from time to time, but you know that it's worthwhile.
It is. I wouldn't change it for the world, because it's making us holy in the process. Because we're having to sit at the feet of God.
Right.
Where we had all the training for street gospel.
Yes. I remember saying that. I'm like, I would rather be in here, sharing the gospel. This is a little uncomfortable for me.
It is. It's just different. It's different. You have to move different. You have to be way more. If you're thinking about athletes with major influence, they're leaders of their families financially. So not just themselves, but their external family. They're leaders of organizations, whether they run foundations or run businesses. You think about not even just athletes, but high influence individuals who lead major companies or presidents of companies and things like that, or leaders of large nonprofit organizations, and you're dealing one-on-one with those people, where they're a lot more reserved because they've learned to be. They have to be.
Exactly.
And then they're thinking and they're processing and they're taking in, so everything that they're thinking and feeling, they're not going to share. And so you have to learn how to read it. It becomes moving from checkers to chess.
Moving from checkers to chess.
It moves
and
from
how
checkers
you're
to chess.
doing ministry.
And how you're doing ministry, because it's an etiquette. There's a nuance to it. So everything matters in principle. And so therefore, your integrity has to go up even higher. It has to go up even higher. The way that you present yourself, the way you carry yourself, because you don't know what moment was being watched. That was actually the moment that was sharing the gospel. You don't know.
So you have to live in a way when no one is watching, as if someone is watching.
Yeah.
And living in a way when someone is watching, that it's the same individual. It's the same life principles that you're putting on display. It's the same just connection with who and what you say you believe in.
Yeah. Because I've heard conversations to where people would tell us, like, I like the way y'all look at each other, or I like the way you talk to your kids, or, when this moment happened, I saw you move like this.
And you're not aware
you're
that
not
these
even
people...
aware. You're not even aware that people...
doing what I do.
I was just doing what I do.
Right.
But that was the moment that was speaking to them. That was the moment that was preaching to them. And it was like, well, why do you do that? Well, I live my life based on this, and that's just how it shows up. I live my life based on this word. I live my life on following Jesus and wanting to be a reflection of him. That the moment that you saw, I wasn't saying, oh, I'm doing this because Jesus. No, he's moved in my heart in such a way that that's a natural rhythm of my life. That wasn't a show. I didn't even know you were watching me in that moment.
Right.
And so, but those are the moments. And
those are the moments that become reoccurring.
Right.
Where you also then have to make sure that you're spending, I think, more and more time with the Lord, so that it's coming out. What's being what they're witnessing is coming out the right way. But then also not being afraid to explain to people when you may miss the mark or they have a question where, oh, that might have been out of character for you.
Mm-hmm.
What does it look like to be convicted and then led to repentance?
Yeah. Go a little bit deeper there.
Well, sometimes in people's faith walk, when they're watching you, it's easy to do sometimes where people start to elevate you and put you on a pedestal.
Yeah.
And so as they're doing that, they're dehumanizing you a little bit, where you're becoming almost like a god to them. And it's not like they're, oh, I'm serving this God, but in their hearts and in their minds. And so then when there's something that takes place in your life that's put on display that is not in alignment with how they've perceived you or the pedestal that they've put you on, being able to advocate for what is taking place. What does it look like? Sin versus the flesh versus the spirit. What does it look like to be convicted? What does it look like to repent? What does it look like to sit at the Father's feet? And so there are all these life lessons, because sometimes people have this misconception that once they accept Christ, then life is just, I'm just going to live this kumbaya. I'm going to pray every morning for 30 minutes. I'm going to read my Bible. Everything's going to go good. But you're like the flesh is constantly wanting to come back and live the way that you've been redeemed from. And so you have to constantly push it down. And sometimes it comes up. You got to do what you got to do to get it back down. But when people witness that, like, you have to have a lesson that you're able to teach in that moment, so that, one, you come off that pedestal that they've put you on, and they see why you shouldn't be there, and they see who should be there, which is God. But they also see in their own life, as they're trying to implement some of these things, what does it look like? Because life is not going to be perfect, and you're not going to be perfect. And so they're able to give themselves grace, but also extend grace to those other individuals as well.
Yeah. I would go as far as to say, I'm not deriving this from the Bible, but I'm not saying it's not biblical, but the better Christian or believer that you show yourself to be is not by how well you live, but how well you repent. It's a battle.
It's a battle every day.
You enter into a battle. You enter into a spiritual battle. And when you're in battle, like, you're going to get cut. You're going to fall to the ground. Sometimes you're going to fall to the ground because you did everything in your training right, but the enemy just got the best of you, or you did everything right, but this is just the trial that comes with life. So you just get hit out of part of being in a sinful world, and you fall, you get cut, whatever. Sometimes it's going to be because you didn't stick to your training. You're an imperfect person. You messed up. You did something wrong, and it cost you. And there's consequences to it. And now you're on the fall, and now you cut. But how well, regardless, can you repent, get back before the throne, get back in the battle? That's what I believe is a true mark of being a strong Christian and a strong believer. How well can you do that? Like, it's literally the difference between King Saul and King David. David's offense was actually worse than King Saul's. If you were to look at it from just a man or a human perspective, like if you were trying to weigh the two. And it was worse, and it lasted longer.
Wow.
But David was quick to repent once he realized what happened. And he had a full repentance. Like, he fell to his knees, he tore his clothes, and just went to praying for the Lord. And once he received his consequence, lost his child and everything that was supposed to come with it, he received his penance, and he got up. And he went back to following the Lord. And he didn't stay in the guilt, the shame. He didn't stay there. But he also didn't short his repentance. Now, the difference, Saul said, I'm sorry. But he never turned. He never turned his heart. So it's not just, oh, yeah, I'm sorry, God, messed up. That's not what repentance is. Repentance actually means to turn. I mean, I realize I'm going the wrong direction. Somehow in this battle, I got away from my training. Now I remember my training. I'm going to get back into it, and I'm going to go for you. That's what the mark of living for the Lord
you
is.
mentioned sometimes people get away from their training.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that I'm not sure a lot of people are aware of are all the distractions that are happening as you continue to climb the ladder. And so if you're in college, that locker room, that environment, your glory is being built there, you're doing campus ministry, the distractions there looks different than the distractions when you're climbing the ladder to success. And so with each new foot that you place on the step, there are new distractions, there's new pressures, there are new expectations that's being placed on you. And so it makes it harder if you're trying to hang on to just the mediocre Bible study, the mediocre and I don't even want to call it mediocre. It's what was good for you in that season. So you can't hold on to those same accountability partners. You can't hold on to that same rhythm with how you pray or how you read your word, because they're new demons and they're chasing you down. And so what do you think are some of the biggest distractions and obstacles in people's faith walk that they're exposed to in this environment specifically?
Oh, man, the league is a monster.
What makes it a monster?
It's a monster. I mean, it can get the best because there's such a wave of things, tangible things, to boost your pride and your ego to insurmountable levels. I mean, everybody from your hometown knows who you are. Everyone from your college, everyone who knew you in your life now knows you as this person, because everybody gets that news that you are now in the NFL. And so what that does is just all this affirmation and praise, or the meter goes up. And then now you got money to spend. You go look at your bank account and you know where you had problems or struggles, you don't have those no more. And not only do you not have those struggles, somebody call you, you can take away their problem or struggle. And I think that's what the Bible talks about. Yeah, no. You have some crazy boundaries. But that's why it says it's harder for a rich man to make it into the heaven than threading the camel through the eye of a needle. Like a camel going underneath a pyramid. Like, it just almost impossible. Like, wait a minute. That should scare somebody who has a lot of money. But what that means is you stop living on faith and you start living on what you can control. So it's like, when I can't pay my bill, I have to rely on faith, because God, I'm going to keep showing up, doing what I'm supposed to do. I'm not going to do nothing wrong, but I'm going to trust you to provide. And now a check comes in the mail or somebody shows up. Like, I had to live on faith to get through that moment. Whereas, man, I see that bill, like, I ain't worried about that bill, boom. Or somebody come ask me for money. Should I donate to this person or should I? Well, I got it. Boom. So you just start moving on your own.
Right.
You ain't praying and asking God about nothing.
Because you start to become your savior and you start to become other people's savior.
So this leads to the drift, which makes distractions become very near. Satan crouching at the door. He's just waiting for an end.
He knows
he don't
how
need
to get
much.
in.
And so
he knows how to get
I would
in.
always say, like, imagine everybody's singing your praises and you can buy anything, go anywhere, take care of people that you want to take care of, at least, even if it's artificially. And then the music
just keeps
promoting that. So it's like, imagine that, and then you stand in the middle of a club where you probably shouldn't even be in a club, but if you in a club and then Drake come on, and you're like, I don't usually do this unless I'm drunk or I'm high, but I'm both right now. If you hear that, you're like, well, I don't normally drink or smoke, but
Because
I'm saying all of this is feeding, and you on a cloud. You're like, well,
so
maybe
all of these things are taking place.
Absolutely.
And, okay, so let me ask you this.
Why'd you get so excited?
Because I'm like, I don't even know that song, but I could feel.
All the listeners know that song, but when it come out,
I don't know, but I'm saying I can feel based on what you just said of how all this noise is getting turned up, how this pride and ego is slowly, getting a notch at the same time. And then you find yourself in a place that you probably shouldn't be in. But there's also, I've heard people say, and this is not wrong. I mean, you can go to places and all the different things. That doesn't mean you're not a believer. But I'm trying to think how they word it. It's something along the lines of like how you meet people where they are, and you go into these places and you still live on mission and on call and on purpose. So you're showing them. But I think sometimes when you keep going to those places, it's not all about missionary work. At that point, it's about feeding something, whether you're aware of it or not, that's there or that was previously there. And so now you're justifying getting out of alignment.
That's good. Yeah, because you're not denying the flesh any longer. You might be denying the flesh in your own right, but then you may see an opportunity to go and share with somebody or go try to be all things to all people. But you have a flesh still. So the closer that you start getting to things, your flesh is picking up on it.
Like, hey, we back.
Yeah.
We back.
If you're around, just the partying, or you around like the hanging out and, doing loose things, or you're around the drugs and you're around that stuff, you have a flesh. And when you being fueled by pride and ego, the reason why you justify it is you're like, oh, I'm good. I'm good. I know who my walk is. I know who I'm covered by. Wait, what? You? What they got to do with you? Like, he's the source. You only have as much power as he is allowing you to have. And if you ain't prayed about every space that you going in, and you ain't covering, and you ain't walking,
you don't have accountability.
You ain't putting on the full armor of God. You're not walking in accountability. All the things in community, the things that he has told you to do, you forgot your training. And then that's where you get off track and you fall astray.
So for people who are coming into this environment or any other environment that's elevating them as a human, how do they identify the people that they should surround themselves by? How do they continue to minimize the noise, minimize the distractions? How is it that they learn how to not allow that pride and ego to grow and take root in a way that could be detrimental to them? Because sometimes it's hard to identify when those things are taking place, which means you can't, sometimes by the time it's brought to your awareness, or, you know what, sometimes it's brought to your awareness, you just swatting it. You're like, no, I got it. Yeah. So with all of those things, when it's brought to your awareness, when it's not brought to awareness, when you're not listening to wise counsel, how do you identify those things? How do you put the proper boundaries and guardrails in place? How do you prevent yourself from going down the wrong path? How do you maximize the platform that you've been entrusted? I know that was a lot of questions, but just hit on some of that.
Well, all of it. And I think it's important for everyone to know that we have limped and learned a lot of these things. So
go deeper.
Meaning we didn't just arrive at like this place of strong belief and being able to live this out practically without bumps and bruises along the way.
And I think you have to put that on display. Yes.
Yeah, living Christianity every day, showing up and it not going well, but still coming back.
Exactly, because there's this thing when you're talking about it with such passion and from a way of wanting to be this huge disciple maker and advocate for the gospel. There's a misconception that, oh, you got it all figured out. You haven't gone down any of the paths of these people that you're speaking of. It's like, no, we're learning from experience. And so from the experience, we want to teach other people so that they don't make some of the same mistakes.
Absolutely. I mean, yeah, and so we would be talking about a lot of wounds to talk about how we arrived here, but on the other side of it, a lot of the things that we learned is, number one, you have to have what is what we call in our B men group is a 1, a 3, and a 7. Like, who's your one person that can strip you down to your drawers, more or less? Like you my person. So I say strip down to draw literally, and but like who can take all the lint out your pocket? Like who knows everything about you? Because if you have parts of you that's in the dark, then you're not walking in real accountability. And you're saying it's just me and God. And some people try to do that, but that's not realistic. Like if it's just you and God, then you are actually in a very vulnerable place. You are alone. And God is there, but there's no people around you, which he's commanded us to operate in community.
And the devil's sitting there too, just waiting.
And he waiting to get you isolated.
Waiting,
and so
eating popcorn.
So you're my one. And what I mean by that, the Bible says it's not good for man to be alone, because when he talked about a helpmate, he's talking about somebody that has your back. They can see the other side. So if I'm facing this way and I'm doing battle, I'm at war, I can't see what's happening back here. Who is watching that for me? So when he gives you a helpmate, that's what that person is. And when you don't have a helpmate and a spouse, then just where you surround yourself with community. And even once you get married, but so what that means is when Tamela and I talk, she can undress me. And I'm saying that a little bit in both ways. But
Demario Davis, can we talking about the Lord the Lord stripping you down?
I am. But she can just say stuff to me that will ground me if I will submit to that information.
If he will submit to that information, yes, which he does not always do.
Not always.
Okay. I just want to, because
my record right now is really good. In the past, I've been a little off, but up to the, I'm on a hot streak right now. Let me be.
In your opinion,
you don't think so?
I don't know. I got to get my notebook and see and tally up your marks.
That's real. That's real. See, stripping me down. She'll tell me the truth. Like you building yourself up, brother. Come on back down. That's real time. And I think especially, I want to say this little nugget in marriages is all this conversation about the wife submitting. Well, when your wife is giving you as a husband wisdom, are you submitting to that knowledge? Are you submitting to that information that's coming in? And you have to put yourself in a submissive posture to get that information. And so it's like, I heard a term that we use with the Lord is called ignorant obedience. That's what he deserves. Even if you don't understand, you obey. And it's like, God, I don't understand what you're saying, but I'm going to follow. Mm-hmm. And if my wife can see something and be like, man, you need to move 2 steps to the right, unless I have ignorant obedience, I'm allowing myself to be in danger. But she's my one. She's the only person on the planet that gets that information out of me. Get that level of between the Lord and you, the only one get that. Now, I do have a 3. And this is where you put your community. You need to have a fellowship of believers who understand you, understand your life, understand how your marriage work, understand how you're raising your kids, and that can hold you accountable and see when stuff out of line. People that you can pick the phone up and call. Well, what if me and my one having something that's going on we can't resolve? I got to have people that I can call. And so that's what keeps you strong. How do you identify
those people, though? Okay. Because sometimes people have the wrong ones and the wrong threes. How do you know if you got the right or the wrong one or 3?
That's another major distraction that happens in our game is people have the wrong entourage around them. Mm-hmm. So the people who you call in your team don't have your best interest. And you wish they had your best interest, or they may have had your best interest in one phase of life, but they're not at a level to hold you accountable in the new phase of life because they're not seeing the same things that you're seeing.
Their worldview is so different.
Yeah, so it's like if you had an accountability partner in college, great. Y'all can still keep in touch, and that can be an accountability partner to some degree. But if you're going in and out of NFL locker rooms every day, they have no context of what you're dealing with. So they only can offer so much information. So they are relying on you to be vulnerable or transparent with all the information. And then they can only give based on their experience, which they have little. So you have to find people, you have to identify one on the front end. When you're going to new environments and new places, whether that's a new job, new city, new community, identify people on the front end. If you know people in that area, if you know people who've been around it, ask questions. Try to start to build a resource base before you go in. And then be intentional about looking and searching for people who are at that level, or higher. You need people beside you and people in front of you. So you need to actively engage and understand that relationships are okay to be seasonal. This is what people, I think, miss. about creating
People miss this a good bit.
healthy relationships, because you have people who you have lifelong friendships and bonds that have been formed over years and decades. So you shrink your community options because you think every relationship has to be that. But seasonal relationships are extremely healthy. If you only in a job for 3 years, you might have 2 or 3 best friends at that job for just those 2 and 3 years. But they were going through some of the same things that you were going through. And because y'all had community and fellowship, you were able to get through it. And that's what you need to be able to create.
Everybody can't transition with you to every season, phase of life. And you have to be able to identify that and be able to have a lot of comfort in repositioning those people.
Yeah. How do you put those relationships in place?
Well, I'm kind of introverted. A little bit anyhow, which that's not always the best thing. But I also observe. I'm really big on discerning. And as I'm discerning people and being vulnerable with myself, because I have to be vulnerable with me before I'm able to be vulnerable with other people, to be able to tell them, this is where I am. This is where I desire to be. These are some potential struggles I may have. This is how I want to show up as a wife, as a mom, as all these things. Because as I'm laying that down and having conversations, people have awareness of how to meet me exactly where I am. I like to be able to give certain people, a very few amount of people, permission to speak into my life and call me out on my crap. Now, everybody doesn't get front row seats at that because not everybody can handle that information responsibly. But with the people that I start to build relationships with and trust, then I kind of invite them in. I'm really big, as you mentioned, of having someone who's walking above you, because it's almost like a Titus II woman, where they've done a lot of the things that you've done, or they've weathered some of the storms that you're going through. And so being able to connect with them in a way where they can share wisdom on how you can potentially navigate those situations, but also friend groups where we're able to do life together and also hold each other accountable with how we want to do these things. But I try to limit those groups of people. Now, I have a lot of friends. I have a lot of associates. I am also, what do you call it? I guess the introverted, extrovert, some ambivert.
You're extroverted, introvert.
Extroverted, whatever that is. But so I do have a lot of groups of people, but I have to position those people in my life where they have shown me that they should be. And I can't move a person up before they're ready. And that's just kind of how I try to navigate it, which is not, I don't always do the best job at that. I've read some people wrong before. And I've read some people right before. And so just learning and continuing to press forward.
You read all my people right. I was in another city with a friend, and I was sharing with him yesterday. He was like, he was having to make a major decision about a person that he was getting ready to onboard for a significant role. He was like, how do you figure that out? I was like, well, my wife discerns it for me. I said, no, I said, does your wife usually have a good discernment meter? She was like, she never misses. I was like, well, all you got to do is go have dinner with her and she'll tell you. And he was like, is that what Tam does for you? I said, brother, I wouldn't be here with you if she didn't agree, if she didn't rock with you. And so
there's been some jokers around I ain't agree with. That's for sure.
We've been in this thing 14 years.
And why are you here, young man?
We've been in this thing 14 years. I didn't have it right always, but I'm a growing person.
Growth in progress.
Yeah.
So how do you organically create an environment and foster relationships in a way where people feel comfortable coming to you in the locker room about things that's not football related, whether it's in church? You mentioned I think, a B-men group where people are able to come to you. What does that look like? How do you build that out?
I remember how I felt around people that life didn't look like mine when I was, on the party scene, when I was hanging out, when I was doing a bunch of things. When I would be around dudes who didn't go out or didn't have, extracurricular activities, like I kind of looked up to them in a way,
Mm-hmm.
and I kind of saw myself as a little inferior to them. If deep down, even though I probably would have never said it, it was like that was how I wished I could have lived.
Right.
But I didn't have enough discipline to not do all the things because I know it wasn't productive to the person I was trying to be. And so I try to have that, knowing that people might have that when they're around me, that I don't judge them, that I love them, that I see them the same. And I'm super intentional about letting people know I don't judge their lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
Because your lifestyle probably ain't nowhere near as bad as what I have entertained. And I think that's like showing how God is, that He's not judging you in that way. He loves you and wants you to just come near, and you ain't got to fix yourself up to come near. So you don't have to change your lifestyle to have a good relationship with me or a good fellowship with me. You might partake in things that I don't agree with, but that ain't gonna change me joking and laughing with you and talking with you, intentional, wanting to get to know you, wanting to know.
You're not gonna cast anybody out.
Nah,
There's always room for people to have a seat at your locker.
Absolutely. Or I have a seat at their locker.
Or you have a seat at their locker.
Yeah. And I think what that naturally does is allows people who have a natural admiration from you from afar to have an admiration for you up close.
That's big.
And that's what I didn't have with those guys. Not that they weren't, but because I kind of tear that veil, you don't just have to admire me from a distance. You can admire me up close because the same person that you see is who I am once we start talking and we really get engaged with each other.
No, that's really good. I like what you're putting down there. I think that's very valuable information. You mentioned earlier about the pride growing, the ego growing, all the attention. People don't view you the same. Like you're constantly being elevated. How do you get that glory off of you and put it back on God?
Man, it's a very dangerous space to be in, to be in this might be an unpopular statement, but I just don't think the glory that's around sports is okay. I don't.
Really?
I don't think that humans are meant to be celebrated in that type of way.
Do you think it's not okay for the people who are celebrating them or for the people who are being celebrated? Or either?
I think either. I think culturally, we put way too much emphasis on sports and entertainment. Like the celebrity lifestyle, it is bad for the people who are in it. It's very dangerous for the people who are in it. It can't be navigated. I'm not saying it can't be navigated.
It can be navigated, and there are a lot of
very hard
mutual benefits that comes from it.
Yeah.
But it's challenging.
But it also forces people who not in that to desire that. Because that's where the light is. And so people are trying to get into the light. But that's not the light. That's not the light. We're called to walk in the light, and that is not the light.
But it's hard to be able to look at it and say, you know what? That seems very enticing, but that's not the light. I actually want the light, and I know where the light is, and I'm going to go get the light, because everything points you to that, and it's screaming that that's the light.
That's the light.
And people are trying to figure out, how do I get there? Yeah. It's one where people kind of want your life
you
too.
Can get that. You can get in that light and all the way up in darkness.
And so it goes back to even what Dorothy said, like all those years ago, is like, these people have everything, but they have nothing because they don't have him. And so you can be on every TV screen, every social scroll, I don't know, all the different media outlets, and the light is on you, but you're actually in darkness.
And so
how do you
have to
get out of darkness, or how do you even come to grips with you are in darkness and you need to get out, because it's not easy.
That part. You have to learn how to have honest conversations with yourself. And it becomes really, if you never had honest conversations with yourself before you get in the limelight. Is it
okay for people to talk to themselves? Because people don't think it's okay to talk to themselves sometimes.
You should talk to yourself, but you also should talk to people who can help you. Not just talk to yourself, but yeah, you should. You should have honest conversations with yourself. I think that glory is blinding. And so where being able to remember your training becomes extremely difficult when you're walking in glory, like people are praising you, because you may misdiagnose something.
Mm-hmm.
And something that should be a warning sign for you could look like favor to you. And so when the light is blinding, you can't tell if that's a red light or a green light. You can't tell if it's go or slow.
Mm-hmm.
And what I mean by that in my own journey is some of my darkest moments or darkest time when I was at the highest.
Oh, wow.
And even as a Christian who was being very intentional with spending time with the Lord or time in community, I got off track. I got away from my training. I fell and veered way off road. And I didn't realize it until I had to have people around me that were bringing me back. And when I repented and turned back, I realized how far I had gone in times of high success. And at the moment, you would have never told me. I would have never believed that I was a public success but a private failure. Because I thought I was doing both well. But that's what blind is. When you blind, you don't know.
Too much light, too much glory.
Too much light, too much glory.
Got to get it off of you.
And then that's when you start to realize the importance of the relationships that you have around you.
Mm-hmm.
Because also if you operate blind, you don't know how to be intentional about the relationship. And then remember I said, make sure you select those relationships ahead of time. Because if you don't put them in place ahead of time, you don't know how high you're about to get up. If you don't put strong relationships on the front end when you go into a company and you just start getting promoted and everybody's celebrating, who in there keeping it real with you to tell you the truth?
Who's going to keep you humble?
And if all your relationships are people that you had before you went into the company, they're not in there. They don't know. They don't know what, they can't see, man, this is who you were when you came in and that's where you at now. They can't keep you grounded. And so everybody's just like, oh man, this is why I'm talking about misdiagnosing it. So now you got the promotion. Now you got the raise. Now everybody in the company
things aren't wrong, because I don't want people to think promotion, raises, success, climbing the ladder is wrong, but it's the heart posture that you have behind those things. It's when you start to look down on other people and you begin to take all the glory for yourself. It's when you allow that pride and that ego to fester and grow, and you can't be corrected. You're untouchable.
What makes people not correctable?
I think people get above the system of the people who are really trying to invest heavily in their life, the systematic theology.
Mm-hmm.
People are running from one thing because they're running to another thing. And I don't believe more times than not that it's intentional.
Mm-hmm.
People aren't just sitting down doodling saying, I'm going to do this way. I'm going to run from it. I think it just happens when you are when you're moving too fast. A lot of time mismanaged. Busyness, when you get super busy, when you don't identify people who have walked before you, who can then come back and walk alongside you. And there's a lot of other things that take place.
Yeah, that's strong.
So for you, what would you tell like an individual who maybe have a lot of glory that's surrounding them, not just from the NFL walk, but whether it's the local bakery, you're climbing the ladder, whether it's the local Starbucks, you're climbing the ladder, because the glory looks different in each environment, right? And so oftentimes people identify the glory as the glory that you kind of mentioned, sports, entertainment, but there's small glory that's happening, for children. There's glory that's happening when you're in high school, middle school. So how do you get that glory off you and start to walk it down and put that glory back on the Lord, allow yourself to be discipled. We had Debbie here last season. She talked about how, because sometimes it's the people who are around you. And she talked about how, you know, she and her siblings, they started touring at a very young age, and they were all, you know, all these award shows, they're on the stage and, you know, people are clapping, and their father would tell them, all right, 2 clap, now get that glory off you and give it back to the Lord. Mm-hmm. So how do people intentionally invite people around them, because they may not have that father figure or that mother figure or that mentor to help them see that the glory belongs to the Lord and to not themselves.
Yeah, you got to find people. Number one, you got to get yourself humbled before the Lord and walk in true humility and understand that He's the source. Mm-hmm. And all the glory belongs to Him. And that is in your prayer life. It's not in your rhythms other than your rhythm of prayer. Not your rhythm of reading the word, not your rhythm of being in a small group, not your rhythm of going to church, not your rhythm of sharing God. It's not in any of those. It's in your rhythm of alone time. Jesus would pull away from the crowd when He had these major acts, and He would just spend time with the Lord. And that's where it begins. It's in your individual prayer time and rhythm of prayer with the Lord, where you're just constantly saying, hey, God, I'm behind you. I'm not in front of you. God, I don't walk beside you. God, you are Alpha and Omega. You're the beginning. You're the end. I have nothing without you. Reminding yourself and putting it back before the Lord in the throne that He is the leader. He's in charge in it, and He's the master. Then you have to be intentional about finding people who have done what you've done. Yeah, you might think you are all this and that, but there are people who've done what you've done. You can find, if you got promoted in a company, you can find somebody else that got that same promotion or a bigger promotion.
Network, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram. Use it for something other than the algorithm scrolls. You can find somebody
who's been down the journey that you're going down. And you can just ask them how they navigate it. Mm-hmm. As I get ready to enter into the next season of life, I'm already forming relationships with people who have done what I want to do. And I'm asking them questions. How did you do this? I can pull from their wisdom and mistakes. They limped their way to the place, and I don't want to get them same marks, them same limps. So the only way I can not do that is if I can go and learn from them. So I'm taking my notepad out. So you put those relationships in place. And a lot of times those people are willing to pour into you. They're willing, even if it's for a season, they're willing. And then be intentional as you got those people who've gone in front of you. As you're going and you see somebody who's running stride for stride with you, doing the same thing, run with them. Now it's iron sharpening iron. So it's like, I ain't just trying to get a promotion. I want to be a light. And I want to be sure that when people understand what it means about getting the glory off of you, it's not shying away from the glory. It's not shying away from the praise and the admiration, because that actually belongs to the Lord. When you shy away from it, you're actually taking glory that's due to God out of the way. You minimizing, you limiting it. God wants that radiant glory. That's for His name to be great. The key is you walk in the light, not in the light. So it's like people see me getting praises and admiration, but I don't see me getting praise and admiration. I see God getting glory.
Okay.
And I take it back before the Lord and at His feet. And so when people are praising and saying this and that, what you're really saying is, look what God did.
Look what God did.
And that's what my heart and my mind is. And so I don't want to minimize it. That's fake humility. That's false humility. So
we don't want false humility.
When there's a major moment that's happening for you, that should be great, because it should be a result of, man, you have been faithfully following the Lord, and now you're reaping the benefits of it. But this is where it starts with integrity, because the first thing you should check is when you get something that seems like a blessing or seems like favor or seems like a good thing, you should be able to ask yourself in your conscience, am I faithfully following the Lord? If you're not, the best thing I would tell you is you better give that back, because that belongs to the devil.
Give it back to the devil.
Because he's using it to keep you in whatever you got going on. Whatever pet sin you got going on.
Because he knows what you want to.
Absolutely.
He knows what you want to.
The devil give out blessings too.
The devil give out blessings too. And I don't think people really sit and register that. Mm-hmm. He has a plan for your life as well. Mm-hmm. And it's his plan. Sometimes appears good, but it's a distraction.
Go back and read what he offered to Jesus. That was a package. That was an awesome package he offered to Jesus.
So as we begin to wrap up, for people who are doing ministry, missionary work, and they have a significant other, how do they come together so that nobody is left behind? Because you have to do that work together before you can do it in all these other places, because that's the foundation, your spouse, your family. So what advice would you give to couples? Because a lot of the work we get to do, we do it together. And it's not easy at all. Sometimes I don't like working with you. But I got to. Unfortunately. Fortunately.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, but fortunately.
Yes, it's about being intentional. And I think realizing there's two flawed human beings that love each other. Like when you have a partner, somebody has said yes to you for the rest of their life. And that's a significant commitment.
Think twice before y'all make that.
Yeah. But when you have said yes to life, to do life together, that person don't mean ill will for you. That person means great for you. And now how well they can do that is going to be marked by how well you guys continue to work individually and collectively. And it's like, I got to want the best for you spiritually. I got to want the best for you mentally. I got to want the best for you physically. And I got to be willing to put the work into myself to be able to bring that. And I think when you start with that, there has to be a willingness to have those raw conversations, because the relationship can only go as deep as the rawness of the conversation.
That's true.
And if you go in knowing that you are imperfect and have humbled yourself enough to know you're imperfect, you get less. You can't be in a marriage wearing a mask. You cannot be in a marriage
unhealthy for you and the other person.
Wearing a mask. Now, you guys collectively can wear a mask for people. You need to be wise to protect yourself. But you can't wear a mask with each other. You have to be able to have those raw conversations. And that's what, when you hear people use term like safe place, that's what that is. And that's what goes back to like having your one. So if you want to walk out ministry and life together as your partner, y'all have to be able to have those raw conversations and know that you mean each other's best interest. And the enemy gonna play tricks. You're gonna have days where you're like, man, she don't want my best interest. She on something else. Or he don't want my best interest. He thinking about himself, you know. And then what I use, the little tactic is, she wouldn't have said yes to me if she didn't have my best interest, because her rest of her life depended on it. And that's kind of how I use like to curb the devil's lie. And I think you have to do that. You have to have that.
That's good. That's really good. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
So tea time. You got any tea you want to spill to the people?
What is
something you want to lead them with?
Just take the first step.
Take the first step.
You're never too late, never too early. No matter how many steps you're taking, just take the next one. Take the first step or take the next step.
First step or next step.
And
just take a step.
Just take a
don't
step.
not move.
Don't not move. And so when we talk about ministry and missional living and all those things, it could be daunting, or it could be, well, I've been doing it, but maybe I haven't been doing it big enough. Just take the next step, or take a step, you know, and move in that direction. It's going to be, it's so worth it. We're just two people who living out our experience with God.
Yeah, and seek wise counsel.
And we encourage you to do the same.
Find great people to have around you.
Yes.
That's key. Find great people.
It's all about the people that surround you.
That's around you. And be able to identify the people who pretend that they're around you for the right reasons, but they're actually there to get their own glory, or to pull you down, or they've been sent by the devil. Look,
discernment.
He sent people, places, things, all of it. So having discernment, but also turning, blooming where you're planted, and knowing that if you are a believer, you are doing ministry, and you are on an assignment, and you don't have to be in a church, you don't have to be overseas. You can be right in your local Starbucks, your classroom, gas station, there's a way for you to live in a way where you're making God known.
Yeah.
Regardless of your walk of life.
And two things is you have to be a part of a church community. That's biblical. And you have to share the gospel with the world in mind. You don't get a chance to minimize ministry to a local community. Doesn't mean that you have to go overseas, but whether that's praying for the world, whether that's sending to the world, you have to have a mindset that the gospel is going to the ends of the earth, because that's when he said Jesus will return, when it's gone around the world. And there are unreached people groups, some that are near, some that are far away. So we have to have that mentality just to.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And I mean, sometimes you got to start at Bedside Baptist. So take the step.
Take the step. Take the step.
That's it. Well, thank you for joining me for another episode. This is good.
It's heavy. It's heavy.
It's a heavy topic. All right, guys. Thank y'all for joining us for another episode of Tea with Tamela. Remember, drops every Wednesday at 5 p.m. We'll see you soon.
Tea with Tamela. Let's laugh and spread love. Tea with Tamela. You're more than enough. Tea with Tamela. Don't ever give up. Tea with Tamela. Come and fill your cup. Tea with Tamela.